Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to do my first look for round 8 in World Cup Fantasy. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to take a look at today is the confirmed fixtures for round 8. So round 8 in World Cup Fantasy is going to contain the third place playoff match as well as the actual final. So that means that we've got 2 fixtures in this round, not just one. And then that also means that the deadline for this round is on Saturday the 18th at the kickoff of the third place playoff, which is at 10 o'clock time UK. And it's not the kickoff of the final. So make sure you don't get caught out with that. The 2 matches are both included and the deadline is the Saturday. So the first match that we've got is France against England. So this is the third place playoff match. And then the final is Spain against Argentina. I have also got the projected goals and the clean sheet odds for these fixtures here. These have come from FPL Joe's website and I will leave a link to that down in the description so you can go and check them out for yourself, as these do update quite often. But currently we've got for the projected goals, France at the top with 2.15 projected goals, and then it's England with 1.54, Spain are on 1.45, and then Argentina are at the bottom with 1.15 projected goals. For the clean sheet odds, it's Spain at the top with a 33% chance of a clean sheet, Argentina have got a 24% chance of a clean sheet, France have got a 23% chance, and then England have got a 12% chance of a clean sheet. Since for the projected goals, it's France and England at the top, and then for the clean sheet odds, it's Spain against Argentina at the top. I think this suggests that France against England is the game that's expected to have more goals in it. This could be it could be like 3-2 or something like that. But then the Spain against Argentina game looks to be a lower scoring game, so it might just be that a team wins that one 1-0. So I think that could be something to keep in mind when you're deciding what sort of players you want to pick for this week. So now we're going to take a look at some of the top scoring points players from each team that is left in the competition. And we'll start off by looking at the 2 teams that are going to be in the third place playoff match. I do think with these teams, picking players is going to be a little bit difficult, at least trying to decide who they are now, because there is a chance that in this third place playoff match, the teams decide to rotate a little bit, because some teams don't really see it as an important match, which I think is completely fair enough. A lot of people don't really like the third place playoff, so it is going to be hard to decide what players are good to pick now. But luckily we do get to see the confirmed lineups before the deadline for the third place playoff, since it is the first match in the round. So that means you don't have to make any decisions before the lineup. You can wait until we've got the lineup and then decide based on that and who's starting, who you want to pick. And then going back to the clean sheet odds and the projected goals, once we've got the lineups, say if England decided to go full strength and France fully rotated, you might see the odds flip and actually favour England. I'm not sure whether that is what's going to happen. I was just using that as an example, but I think that's why those clean sheet odds and projected goals are so good, because once we've got the lineups, we will be able to see how that's changed anything, so definitely go and check them out. So we'll start off by taking a look at the top scoring French players in this game. So defensively, we've got Maignan the goalkeeper, Upamecano, Digne, Koundé, Saliba, Theo Hernandez and Lacroix are all the highest scoring defensive players. I think depending on who starts, there could definitely be some good options in here. I would expect that Maignan probably stays in goal, so if you've got him, you can probably just keep him. Saliba did come off injured during the match for France against Spain, and he's expected to be out for quite a while actually. I think that's going to be something we have to look into when we start talking about FPL soon, that Saliba's probably going to be out for quite a big chunk of the season, and then that should mean that Lacroix at just 4.5 million starts for France. So if you need a cheaper defender to afford other things in your team, then I think Lacroix is probably going to be a good option for that. With the rest of the defence, Upamecano and Koundé could both be good options if they do start. One of Digne or Theo Hernandez should start, so you'll be able to pick between one of those two. But really, I think with the rest of the defence, apart from the goalkeeper and Lacroix, we're probably just going to have to wait on the lineups and see if there is anyone you want to pick. The top scoring attackers for France are Mbappe, Dembele, Elise, Barcola and Doué. I think Mbappe should definitely start this game because he is currently tied with Messi for the Golden Boot, and this third place playoff does actually count towards winning the Golden Boot. So if Mbappe scores a goal in this match and Messi doesn't score in the final, then Mbappe would be the winner of the Golden Boot. So I can definitely see him starting because of that. With Dembele and Elise, they're probably quite likely, in my opinion, to get a rest, and whether that's not starting or just reduced minutes. But a player that isn't on this list that I could definitely see potentially starting over one of these two is Cherki. So if Cherki is in the starting lineup, then he is definitely a player that I'd be interested in. And then we're probably going to see one of Barcola or Doué start. Those two are probably just going to continue the rotation that's been between those two throughout the rest of the competition. Now we will move into the second team in the third place playoff match, which is England, and we will start off by looking at their defensive options. So there is Pickford in goal, Konsa, Guéhi, Reece James, Spence, O'Reilly and John Stones. We've already seen quite a lot of rotation across the England defence so far in this tournament. Pickford's the only one that's been completely nailed and started every game. I think some of the rotations mainly just been down to injuries. I think Reece James, for example, if he was fully fit, he'd have probably started every game, but injuries have kept him out for a little bit. But of course, we will get the confirmed lineup, so if you do want to pick any England defenders, you will be able to do that knowing who starts. However, with France having the top projected goals and England having the lowest clean sheet odds for this week, I'd say the England defence is probably one that I'm going to be looking to avoid if possible. If he does start, O'Reilly could potentially be one that I'd consider just because he is very attacking. Maybe Reece James as well, some attacking threat, but outside of that, I'd probably just look to avoid. And then the top scoring attackers for England so far have been Bellingham, Kane and Gordon. Like with the defence, I'm really not sure what the minutes are going to be like for these three in this third place playoff. I think Tuchel has just done an interview. I don't know if it was from last night or from this morning, but he's done an interview where it sounds like he's not too bothered about this third place playoff match. He doesn't really care about it. So I think we could potentially see quite a rotated side for England. So some options that could potentially be in your team could be maybe Watkins if he starts. Rodgers, who did start last night, could potentially see a start again. So I think rather than it being these three players we're looking to target, it's going to have to be a case of wait and see who is in that starting lineup, and then maybe pick some of them. I probably would pick one or two England attackers against France, as their defence is probably going to be rotated a little bit as well, and the projections suggested that it could be a high scoring game for both teams. Now we'll move into the teams that are in the final, and we will start off with Spain and their defensive options. So the top scoring players from Spain have been Cucurella, Laporte, Pedro Porro, Kabasi, Simon and Llorente. Since Spain has got the highest clean sheet odds for this week and they have only conceded one goal in the whole tournament, I think you're definitely going to want a few Spain defenders in your team for this week. Cucurella is definitely one I'd look to have. I think Kabasi and Simon are good options as well. Laporte is definitely a really good defender, but I think for 5.5 million he's a little bit expensive for owning in the fantasy game, because obviously we don't have like defensive contributions in this game. It's just like the goals and the assists outside of the clean sheets. So if you're looking for additional points outside of the clean sheets, you probably don't get them from him. So you might as well just go for Kabasi, who is 0.5 cheaper. And then Pedro Porro has looked really good throughout the World Cup so far as well. There is a slight risk that Llorente could start ahead of him, although I do think that's unlikely, as Pedro Porro has started all of the knockout knockout games, so I think he is probably going to keep his place, and he's looked very attacking as well, so I think going for him, as long as you're not too worried about the minutes, could definitely be a really nice option as well. And then moving into the Spanish attackers, the 4 top scoring attackers are Oyarzabal, Olmo, Baena and Lamine Yamal. Oyarzabal is definitely a player that I want to have in my team going into the final round, so if you don't have him, I'd definitely be looking to have him. Baena is quite cheap, so he could be a good option, but I am a little bit worried about his minutes, and unfortunately we don't get the Spain confirmed lineup before the deadline. We might get some sort of leak about the team, but if we don't, or the leak doesn't have Baena in it, then I think that makes him probably more of an avoid. Yamal looked a lot better in that last match, the semi-final. It looks like he's probably actually recovered from his injury now. He looked a lot more lively, a lot more involved, so I'd probably look to try and get him into your team, but if you can't afford him, then Olmo could be a good option as well. And then finally, we'll look at the Argentina players, starting with their defensive options. So we've got Martinez, the defender, Romero, Martinez, the goalkeeper, Medina, Molina and Tagliafico are the top scoring defenders for Argentina. Since the projections were suggesting that this is likely to be a lower scoring game, I would probably look to have a couple Argentina defenders in your team going into this one as well. I think the safest options are both Martinez's, Romero and Molina, I'd say all look pretty nailed on. With Medina and Tagliafico, I think Tagliafico has pretty much nailed down the starting position now, but there probably is a slight bit of risk still, and with Molina only being 0.1 million more than Tagliafico, then for the safety, if you can afford it, I would probably lean towards Molina. And then finally, moving into the Argentina attackers, the top scoring attackers are Messi, McAllister, Lautaro Martinez, Enzo Fernandez, De Paul and Julian Alvarez. Messi is obviously the standout attacker that you definitely want to have in your team going into this fixture. A couple more that I'd look to have are probably at least one of McAllister or Enzo Fernandez, as they have both looked quite good in the recent matches, I think. It was Enzo Fernandez that got the returns in the most recent match. It was McAllister in the one before, but McAllister did hit the post twice in the semi-final against England, so probably a little bit unlucky if you did have him not to get any returns from him. So you could go for either of these or even both of them if you've got 2 midfield spots to fill in. I think Lautaro Martinez and Alvarez could potentially both be good options, as they have been getting more involved in the goals, but Lautaro Martinez probably won't start, so it's probably more likely that you get something off the bench if you went for him. And with Mbappe still being a good option for this week because of the golden boot race, and Oyarzabal and Messi obviously being good options, I think there probably just isn't the room for either Lautaro Martinez or Alvarez in your team. Okay, and that is everything for my first look for round 8 in World Cup Fantasy. If you liked the video and found it useful, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well, as I am trying to get to 200 subscribers by the Game Week 1 FPL deadline. My next video will be my team selection video for round 8, my final team selection video for this tournament. It won't be my last World Cup Fantasy video. I do have another video planned for after the tournament is finished, but my final team selection video will be coming out on Saturday, the day of the deadline for this last round, so hopefully I will see you all then for that video. Bye!